Hello there, and welcome to another one of my kind of boring videos. Today I have on the bench my Night Owl Security DVR, and what's been happening I don't know what happened last week, and then it happened again today. One of the cameras keeps going out and coming back on again, and each time that happens, there's a beep. You know, the thing beeps about 5 or 6 times when the signal goes out, and then beeps again when it comes back on. And I couldn't find any power supply problem feeding the camera, so it could be the camera. I don't think it's a loose connection because those connections are done pretty good up there. And it's one of the 4 cameras that I have on the house. And the reason this is on the bench is because the last time I worked on this here, for some reason the hard drive didn't work, and playing around with the cabling, it seemed to have done it, and it's been working good. This is about a year and a half ago that I had the problem with this. So let me get you a macro shot here. Now this is the hard drive. I believe it's a 500 gig. I remember looking that up on the back of the hard drive. You may not see it on the video here. There's not much to this thing. There is inputs for 8 cameras. I've got 4 cameras on it now, so I have 4 pictures up on the monitor screen. And then cameras 5, 6, 7, and 8, the 4 jacks on the left-hand side, are not used. So one of the cameras kept going out on me. Now that happened probably a week, maybe even 2 weeks ago. And each time it does, it goes beep, 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 like that. And, then when the signal comes back on, it beeps again. And it's quite loud. So what I had done here is I didn't want to remove the beeper. This is the beeper right here next to this button battery here. Guess that keeps the memory in. So I took a little screw and drove it into the little hole on the top. I did all this off camera. And I got it to screw in, not really tight because it's only plastic, until it touches the diaphragm for the squealer. And then I mixed up some epoxy, and I'm waiting for that to dry, and just put it on top of there and just close it in. So if I hear this beeper, it's going to be very weak. I didn't want to remove the beeper for the simple reason is I'd have to remove this board, and it will be, for me, it would be very difficult, because all these jacks here are fastened to the back panel from what I can see, and then there's CD input jacks. See the leads coming down here from these jacks, they're all soldered on the board here, so it would be a huge job for me to take that out. As you can see, the B and C connectors are right on the metal back. So, in other words, I would destroy this thing trying to work on it. So this is the only thing I can do. Now, another thing I could have done is probably take a small pair of pliers and literally crush the beeper, but then I risk shorting out by squeezing it, and maybe not being able to get it all off the board. It would be shorted out, and then it would render this thing useless. So this is the best thing I can do. Now, I've done things like this in the past on UPSs, in other words, uninterruptible power supplies for computers. But I didn't use the screw or the epoxy. What I had done in those cases is just take a piece of electrical tape and put it across the top of the beeper. It reduced the sound of the beeper about half. So in this case, I wanted to make very sure that it was, if it was audible, it would be very faint, because I didn't want this thing going off in the middle of the night because of these cameras being intermittent. I mean, they're cheap cameras. I get them off of eBay for $20, $25, and I've had them for several years, and they're not really all that good, but you can plainly see anybody out there. And they're not too bad at low light. I mean, they're not a professional camera. That's way beyond my budget. This is a Night Owl DVR that I've got off of Amazon several years back. And we'll take a piece of wire here and gently touch this epoxy and see if it's set up enough so that I can bring this into the house and try it out. I just don't want this epoxy to be running down on the side. I put quite a bit on there. Running down on the side of the alarm and getting on the circuit board. You can hear it, it's sticking, but it's hardening up quite good. So in other words, it's sticky, but it's hard. So epoxy will stay sticky for quite a while, but it's not going to run down on the circuit board, and that's what I'm worried about. So I guess I can bring this into the house and try it out. Now, these are not easy to program. So what I do is when we go anywhere, I just leave the thing on. I just push the manual record and just record everything. Because it's quite complicated in the menu the way you got to do it. And there's tutorials on YouTube which I have bookmarked and saved in my Watch Later folder. But they're quite difficult to use. And the file format for the videos that are saved on the hard drive are not a standard format. They're a format for what DVR security systems use, and don't ask me what it is. I did know, but I forgot. What else is new? Anyways, but they need to put a small file size on these things, and the quality must be piss poor, because otherwise you could fill up this 500 gig hard drive in short order. So I have it set so every month it writes over. Now, because this thing has been unplugged, I hope I don't have to set everything again, because I'm going to have to get the book out and read that, and if I can find the book. But this memory battery here, there's a button battery, probably a 2035 or a 2032 or a 2025, one of those 3-volt batteries, and it will, it's supposed to be there to keep the memory in. So that is that. So that's my project for today. I'll get you another look. There isn't much to this thing, but you can see how it's made. See, this is on a plastic insulator. It makes it look like this will all come out in one unit. But that's not the case, because I'll bring you back to the other side. So in other words, it would be nice if I can remove this whole thing right out, and then I could remove this beeper and maybe put an LED in its place. But it's very difficult for me to solder to small connections like this. Even though there appears to be a lot of room around here to work, I run the risk of jumping out the traces trying to solder things in, even though I have a little 23-watt Princess iron with a needle point on it for small work like this. I just can't work with small things, so I'll end up ruining it. So I think this is the best option to do. So because this beeper is very loud. I mean, you can hear it all over the house, and it wakes my wife up and everything else when this damn thing goes off. So I mean, you need an alarm, but we can't have a false alarm every time you lose a signal on the camera. And like I say, with these cheap cameras, they go out sometimes. And another thing about these cameras is I got one of them that is not as sensitive in night vision as it used to be. So I may have to buy another $20 camera on eBay. But if I get a couple years out of them, they're worth it. They're worth it, you know. And I also have one new one that I got from Harbor Freight, which is pretty darn good in low light, but it's one of the earlier ones that will, in the daytime, will give you purple where it's supposed to be green foliage, because it doesn't have the UV filter in it. So it's very good in black and white at night, but it does not do good in the daytime as far as colors are concerned. That was one of the earlier cheap Harbor Freight cameras. So I got one of those, and I can throw that in there if I had to. It's just a matter of climbing up and hooking it up and running the wires down inside. And again, the weather's got to get better. So anyways, oh yeah, it's sticky, but it's definitely hard, and I can feel it's slightly warm. So it's fine. So we're going to go in the house and hook it up now and just see what we've got. But before I do, I want to show you the other side once again to see that this can't come out. So I just wanted to let you know that, because if I was able to get this out in one complete unit, I would have tried to take this off the board completely instead of doing what I did. But as you can see, the little flanges on the bottom of these BNCs, you can't pull them out through the back panel, which is metal. So, and the back panel, I don't think it comes off. No, it's pretty rigid, so I don't think it comes off. So anyways, that's the way I did it. So I'm going in the house now, and I'm going to bring this in, and we'll see if it works. Oh, the mouse don't work. Okay, the mouse works now. Hit record. Okay, record is working. You can't see the R's until this disappears. Okay, so it's recording now. And there's no more beeping when I take a signal or remove a camera. I don't hear any more beeping, so that's good. Okay, we will stop that. Okay. Alright. She's fixed. Okay, well, I got that fixed. We got rid of the beep, and I have no idea why that camera kept going out, but it could be the power supply, because I've got that camera on a analog, a linear power supply, a wall wart, and the other three cameras are on a switching power supply. But it makes a lot of noise, and I can't listen to shortwave here at all. So I have to do all my shortwave listening in the workshop. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, everyone.
Hey, Doctor. Yes. He seems to have some labored breathing. Yes, I have noticed that. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna have to go in and find out what's wrong with his heart. Something is screwed up in there.